In this video, I want to talk about why solopreneurs have imposter syndrome and how you can overcome it to really find the success that you're looking for inside of your business. Oh, and make sure you stick around to the end because I want to show you how you can turn imposter syndrome into an advantage for you and your business. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Emmanuel. I am the founder and kind of chief talking head guy here at Square One Group, where really our mission is simple: to help you grow and scale your business using systems. Now, having said that, the topic of imposter syndrome is 100% relevant in every founder that I talk to and that we work with. The voices inside of your head, they never go away, and they get louder and louder the more that you leave them unchecked. So I want to break down how to lower the volume on these voices and hopefully give you a better path forward so you can learn how to deal with this and not have that voice sabotage, or those voices sabotage, your business in the future. Okay, so in order for me to help you understand kind of the big ideas behind this, I first want to present to you a really cool story about a founder that I've been working with. I think it's been close to a year now. She started her business around the same time that we decided to work together. And we worked together, several times a week for a good 5 months or so. We had worked on her offer, how she's going to deliver her program, her marketing funnels, her content calendar, her different automations. And within those 5 months, she was getting leads, she was getting appointments. Things were going great up until around month 5. And in month 5, something terrible happened. She ran out of money. The money that she had initially saved up for this new business venture had dried up. And because of that, she had to ask her husband to help continue to fund her dream. Needless to say, that was a very painful conversation that she had to have. But her husband was there to support her, so he happily, helped cut a check to help her keep going. But right after that, what ended up happening was the voices inside of her head, they started to get louder and louder and louder. They were saying things like, "Why are you continuing to do this? You have a family to feed. You need to get a 9-to-5 job. You need to find more stable income." It really started getting really devilish and started saying things like, you're just not cut out for this. You shouldn't be doing this at all. Well, I hope you're getting the picture here. Like, the negative voices were just getting louder and louder and louder, really just saying that you're not worthy. And so the next week when we met again on a Zoom call, I saw her face. She looked completely defeated. She was deflated. She was upset. She was angry. She was sad. A ton of negative emotions. Now, the road of entrepreneurship, it is a lonely one and a very painful one. Now, if left unchecked, those negative emotions and voices inside of your head, they end up appearing in real life. You end up physically starting not to feel right, or you might start feeling ill. Or in her case, she just had a really empty pit in her stomach. She had no energy. She was lethargic. And she just didn't want to go on anymore. And she was just visibly upset on this call. Now, the main thing here that you have to realize is that the voices inside of your head that are saying these negative things to you are the exact same voices that I hear in my head. And they're the exact same voices that every 7, 8, 9-figure CEO has in their head. The big difference between where they are and maybe where she was in her business was that they have mental models. They have frameworks on ways to deal with those negative thoughts and emotions inside of her head. And I want to share some of the things that we workshopped together with you. Starting off with number 1, and that is to quiet the negative talk. Those negative thoughts and conversations that you have inside of your head, they're poison. And the main thing, or the main exercise that we workshopped with her, was that we really honed in on building this muscle of self-awareness, being able to identify and point out the negative thoughts inside of her head, because at the end of the day, you are not your thoughts. And those negative thoughts, they're just going to be the biggest saboteurs of your business and eventually make you shut down your business. If we can identify them, we can know how to silence them. And part of the practice of identifying them is being mindful of them. And mindfulness is no more than a foo-foo word for, hey, just take a couple minutes and just sit down, be quiet, maybe meditate, but listen to the voices inside of your head and realize that those are just voices inside of your head. They are not you. And once you're able to identify that, you can now start turning down the volume. You can quiet those negative thoughts. But in this particular case, what I recommended to her was that she start challenging those negative thoughts. If it's saying one thing about maybe how she's not worthy to be, a business owner, challenge that negative thought and say, no, yes, I am worthy of being a business owner. I am confident in myself. And just reinforce those negative thoughts with positivity. Provide evidence of why you are better than those negative thoughts. On her case, why she was worthy of being a founder, being an entrepreneur, versus her negative thoughts saying that she wasn't worthy of being a founder or an entrepreneur. And the reality is, the more you take those negative thoughts and you flip them, the more empowered you're going to be able to do more and be great. So focus primarily on talking to yourself positively, and don't let those negative thoughts get too much to you. Now, having said all this, there is a happy ending to the story, but I'm going to get to it in a minute, because there was a bit of an evolution that took place, and I want to kind of document that process to help you understand how to deal with the negative thoughts and emotions inside of your head. Which leads us to the next big idea. And that is, instead of keeping all these negative thoughts and emotions just bottled inside of her, which is completely unhealthy, she decided to tell people about it. Or in this case, she kind of vented to me, which in this case means seeking support, asking for help, asking for someone to kind of just be a sounding board and talk you out of the ledge. And the strategy here, it's real simple. We want to be able to have a sounding board for our emotions. So let's find a mentor, a peer, a coach, a therapist, just so that we can express our emotions, because sometimes when we isolate those emotions, it's not healthy. And sometimes when we're able to express the emotions, we're able to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So in this particular case, when she came on the Zoom call, she just vented to me. I was just lending my ear and just being quiet and listening. The key here was that she was being honest and expressing her emotions and frustrations. The silver lining in being able to express this stuff and being able to talk to someone about this stuff, and keep in mind, it can't be to her husband, because her husband is not a peer. Her husband is her husband, will forever support her, but does not understand entrepreneurship. You have to be talking to another fellow entrepreneur or mentor or coach or other founder, because the bottom line is they have been where you are. And in this case, since I've been where she was, I can easily give her some guiding light, some fundamental first principles about how I deal with those negative thoughts, because the same negative thoughts that she hears in her head are the same that I hear in mine, and the same that every other 7, 8, 9-figure CEO hears in their head. My goal in this conversation is to express how I've dealt with it, and hopefully she can extract whatever valuable pieces of information from my journey so that she can apply it into hers. Now, negative thoughts aside, she shared her emotions. She's gotten a little bit of positivity. We need to move to the next phase of this. And the next phase of this is all about celebrating wins. Like, I have a very simple philosophy. I remember one of my mentors told me this a very long time ago. If we only celebrated whenever we got a sale, we would be depressed 99% out of our year. Well, hopefully it'd be like 90%, not 99. But yeah, we'd be depressed a heck of a lot out of our year. So we don't want to be depressed for that long. Instead, we want to celebrate the wins. We want to celebrate what's going to get us closer to the finish line, to the goal, to the sale. So in this particular case, part of the conversation we had on the Zoom call was this: what has happened? What have you done to try to close the sale? Did you get a lead? Yes. Okay, let's celebrate the lead. Did that lead have, did you start a conversation with that lead? Yes. Okay, perfect. It turned into a prospect. Fantastic. Were you able to get an appointment from this prospect? Oh yeah, I did. I'm going to be talking to them in a week or two. Fantastic. Like, let's celebrate all of those little incremental, milestones, because the bottom line is it's just getting us that much closer to our goal and further away from where we don't want to be, which is stuck in this valley of victimhood and just being sorry for ourselves. And one of the little tricks to this is making sure that on a daily basis, at the end of the day, we just take a journal. We just jot down some of our big wins or our successes. And this is one of the habits that I advised her to do, much less one of the habits that I do even to this day. I've been doing it for years now, but every single day at the end of the day, I always jot down a couple of wins, no matter how small, because it's just some peace of mind that you're going in the right direction. Hey, if you found value in this video so far, really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, subscribe button, bell icon, all that good stuff. Just helps out the channel. Thank you so much in advance. Now, here's the thing. Those negative voices, the reality is that they're actually telling you an untold truth. They're actually telling you the solution that you're looking for, but you just kind of have to be patient and sit with it and understand, or I should say, really dissect what it's trying to tell you. And that's essentially what we did in this conversation with this client. So check this out. The reason she was hitting this imposter syndrome and this kind of glass wall that she hasn't been able to break through was because she had hit a roadblock in her business. And because she had hit that roadblock in her business and she wasn't able to break through, the negative voices just ended up getting louder and louder and louder. I mean, prior to asking her husband to help her financially, she had a ton of momentum. But unbeknownst to either of us, she had also hit this glass ceiling around the same time she had asked, to borrow money from her husband. And the big roadblock, bottleneck, glass ceiling that we identified, it was that, part of her process was sending out email campaigns to all of her prospects. And she'd hit the point where she'd been sending out emails and she was no longer getting replies. And because she wasn't getting replies, the voices in her head started getting louder and louder and louder. And if we really took a second and remove the voices in our head and think about this kind of just analytically, like what happened? Where did the funnel stop? Where did we find a leak in the bucket? And it turns out that's where it was. She was sending out emails, she wasn't getting any replies. Well, if that's the case, then the solution here is real simple. We have to address the problem head on. Why are people not replying to her emails? Well, it turns out that her emails were just a bunch of email newsletters. Now, here's the thing about email newsletters. No one responds or replies to email newsletters. I have never replied to an email newsletter. I don't know if you have. If you have, kudos to you, but I have never done it. I would guess that the majority of the population have never replied or responded to an email newsletter. So it's more of the same for her. After coming to this realization, it was an opportunity for learning. We had learned that she was doing something incorrectly, and it was just a few tweaks to kind of course correct and get her on, the right path. And in this particular case, that right path was stopping the process of sending email newsletters and starting the process of sending emails that look like an actual email, like me emailing you, like a one-to-one email with just basic text with a basic message. And in addition to that, actually providing value in the emails and telling the story and asking for a response. Now, here's the funny part. Through that process, just that small tweak, following week, sent out another email campaign, got a ton of responses. Now, the big idea here is that we have to be lifelong learners, especially inside of the negativity or that negative talk that we have inside of our head. Because the bottom line is the negative talk is actually our brain saying, hey, there's a missing piece to the puzzle that you don't know about. You have to just sit down, shut the heck up, and listen. Try to identify what that missing piece is, because once you've identified it, it becomes a very easy problem to solve. And when you're able to identify it, and you're able to solve the problem, the voices in your head, they kind of go down a couple decibels. Hey, so if you're struggling in dealing with the imposter syndrome and would like a little bit of help, I invite you to book a quick 10-minute brainstorm session with either myself or someone on my team. Love to jam with you, see how we can help you out, and hopefully get those voices inside of your head kind of silenced or at least down a couple notches on the volume level. So remember in the beginning of the video, I mentioned how we can use imposter syndrome to our advantage? Well, here it is. The main thing is whenever we hear the voices inside of our head, there's a couple things that are actually truly happening. Number one, it's a sign of growth. Whenever you hear the voices inside of your head, it's actually something that you need to lean into, as opposed to our bodies reacting to this fight or flight response where we need to be in our comfort zone. When you lean into that discomfort thing, you'll find out very quickly that it's going to be the fastest way to get to your goals. So if you hear the voices inside your head, it means that you're going in the right direction. Lean into it and uncover whatever it is they're trying to tell you, and then go toward that. The next piece of this is that this is an opportunity for us to silence our ego. We may feel like we are experts in the space because we've been doing it for so long, but this is a really great opportunity to practice humility, to humble ourselves, but more importantly, understand that there is something that we need to learn. If those voices inside of our head are doing one thing that is blatantly clear, it's that it's trying to say, you have to learn something, figure out what exactly it is that you need to learn, and go learn it. Because once you learn it and you implement it, the voices, they go away. The next big idea behind imposter syndrome and using it to our advantage is that fear is a driver. Now, hear me out. When you are scared, you need to use that fear as energy to keep pushing you forward, because the reality is the fear is the fuel that you can use, or that you need to be using, in order to get you past the negative thoughts and negative voices and get you to the next step. Use the fear. All right, the last reason you can use imposter syndrome to your advantage, it's this. It builds resilience. The bottom line here is the more that you can quiet down those negative thoughts inside of your head by solving more problems, because remember, every single time you solve a problem, the volume gets lower. And every single time you solve another problem, the volume gets lower. The more that you can solve those problems, the more powerful you become to not succumb to the voices. It builds this armor around you that reflects negative thought. And this armor is no more than just confidence. And once you're finally able to acquire a full set of armor, you'll realize that it's going to be very easy for you to silence any negative thoughts.